are here at Amherst, Massachusetts, Saturday, September 24th, 2011, and there's a protest against the United Nations, as you can see. Some smiling faces here trying to warn people, alert people about the United Nations and the dangers it gives us. And Amherst is an interesting place. It's probably one of the better venues to be because Amherst belongs to an arm of the UN, or maybe an adjunct, called the ICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiative. And I think this event's been going on the last couple of years, and it's promoted by the Western Massachusetts 912 group, and it's very encouraging to see this type of activity in this town. Some people have been driving by with thumbs up, but you get some middle fingers and some very vulgar comments, which tells me, why would anybody who believes in peace and happiness and love and prosperity for the world be so vulgar and nasty when they drive by? They should try to convince us of the wonders of the UN. But we know the truth. The UN was founded by a man named Alger Hiss. He was the first acting secretary. He was a Soviet agent, helped betray Eastern Europe into the hands of Stalin. And from then on, it's gone downhill since then, folks. And for many years, people have been somewhat indifferent. They may not like the UN. They may think the UN is really not a threat to them. They think it might be a lot of third world dictators. But thanks to Agenda 21 and some of the arms of the Agenda 21, the ICLEI, the UN isn't just in your backyard, it's right in your front yard, it's right in your home in some cases. So we're very encouraged to see this, and encouraged to see the amount of people around the country that have been speaking out against it and having a lot of success in exposing it. You see, it says here, UN Sustainable Slavery. Now, the notion of sustainable development, that means basically you don't use all the resources for the next generation, but that's not what it really means. The middle class is unsustainable. The internal combustion engine is unsustainable. Families with more than one child are unsustainable, and on it goes. Property rights are non-existent in a sustainable world, and if you actually read Agenda 21, they will tell you that. And it's not just about property and the environment. It's about social redistribution of what wealth is left over. But keep in mind, folks, the people like Al Gore, who's a billionaire, his wealth won't be distributed. The big foundations, the multi-billionaires that support the UN, all their money is safe in these big foundations. It's the middle class. And the ultimate goal is to get people out of the rural areas into little, very managed, high-density urban areas. All of our schools will be teaching the glories of one world government, one world socialism. Monotheism is unsustainable. Christianity is unsustainable. The Constitution is an unsustainable document, and it will have to be replaced with a modified UN Charter, which gives us very little say in the world, where the United States is about 5% of the world's population. So we have 5 votes, and those 5 delegates will be happy advocates of a one world system. Well, I'd like to interview a few folks here, if I may. Sir, could I ask you your name and what brings you here?
My name is Bill Santi. I'm from Chicopee, and I believe the United Nations is anti-Semitic. I'm a Christian. I'm pro-Israel, and it's just so viscerally anti-Semitic.
And the UN almost always votes against the interests of Israel on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And a lot of folks don't realize this, but the PLO, that even our own State Department considers a terrorist organization, has observation status at the UN. So, well, I appreciate you being here.
Right. And by the way, part of the Tea Party too, 912 Tea Party.
912 Tea Party. And also, now sir, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
What brings you out here to protest the United Nations?
Well, this place right here has a UN flag flying right next to their town hall. The American flag is up on the corner on the opposite end. So obviously this town likes the UN. The UN is bad because they're going to implement a thing called Agenda 21, which is going to change our whole world. It's going to be a new world order, one world government. We're going to have to live in different locations. We're going to have no property rights. Private property rights are going to be gone. They're going to take over all those areas and leave them as open spaces or what have you. You're not going to be able to drive your car in certain places. You're not going to be. You'll have to ride bicycles and so on and so forth. going to throw the Constitution right out
Out the window, yes. Are you from this area? Do you live in
I'm
Amherst?
from Springfield, Massachusetts.
Springfield, Massachusetts. Yeah. Now, I understand there was Henry Cisneros was in town recently.
Yes, he was.
Promoting Agenda 21.
He was.
And what's interesting is that, well, most people will hear what you just said and say, come on, that's far-fetched. It's actually their policy. And I understand that they bust in about, what, busloads of students.
Yes.
And as some of you, 3 busloads of students, mostly inner-city type students.
Yes.
And of course, there's really not much hope under this Agenda 21 for someone living in poverty. In fact, it will just perpetuate the poverty.
That's true.
And Cisneros' position is that no more industry. You'll basically be a technician or a software engineer or service industry.
Correct.
For a government agency. Basically, that's the future.
Right.
Although I think we can be successful. And something like this would not have happened 10, 20 years ago. Oh, there's a lot of folks who don't like it, but you wouldn't see this, but now you see it. And I think it's very encouraging. So again, thank you for coming out here. And of course, I live in Boston, and when I heard about a UN demonstration, an anti-UN demonstration, I look at it more as an outreach, not so much a demonstration,
right.
Because we want to educate people.
We're just educating people.
And because there's always handouts to have at these events, people, and videotape, DVDs and so forth. But so that's something you wouldn't have seen 20 or 30 years ago. You're seeing it now. It's becoming more obvious. So, see that, folks? It's fun to be an activist, even when you get middle fingers and profanity out of your way. It's fun. Anyone else want to be on camera? Here's this very attractive young lady here. Like to
Hal, I just want to make
take those glasses off and we see your pretty eyes. There we go.
There. I just want to make sure you know to get the picture of the UN
yes, we'll
flag
do that.
flying
Yes,
in front
I'll
of the
definitely
town
do that.
hall.
I mean, if I do nothing else, by the end of the day, I'll get that picture.
Yeah, because that's been there for 30 years, 35 years. They've
So
been flying it
Amherst,
for years.
actually, there's a state law that was passed in the early 60s that said it forbids a town or a city or a municipality or a county government to fly the UN flag. I'm sorry, fly any foreign flag. And they'll say, well, the UN isn't a country. Well, what is it when you make treaties with it and you send ambassadors to it? Well, what brings you out here? What got you interested in opposing the UN? Were you always this way, or was it a gradual thing?
Maybe for about the past 5 years.
5 years.
Everything's starting to culminate, and it's starting to fall in place. Everything that I've heard, you know, all these things. Oh my goodness, they're crackpots. They're right-wing extremists. No, because a lot of the stuff that's coming out now is the mainstream media is now covering it.
That's right.
So we have been redeemed.
Bottom line is we've been ahead of the curve. So
yes.
We may be crazy, but we're not stupid, as I think should be our motto, right?
Yes, we knew ahead of time, and we've been trying to educate the people.
And you live
I live in Westfield.
Westfield.
Yes. Westfield,
and what's the
Mass.
situation there in Westfield? Are they part of ICLEI or green communities or sustainable, all that good nonsense?
I cannot say 100% sure, but they're doing a lot of reinvestment and recovery work.
Taking money from the federal government.
Yes,
so,
I mean, Westfield's going to look gorgeous when it's done.
Right, but there won't be anybody living there, right?
A lot of my friends have already moved to New Hampshire.
Really, yeah.
And that's probably because of Massachusetts in general. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we just gave a presentation in Troy, New Hampshire on the subject, and we had a legislator there, and she's going to get busy trying to get other sponsors and get some investigations. She actually has in the legislation to order a cease and desist for all towns that belong to ICLEI. So we're encouraged by that.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And what would you say to people who are skeptical, who might be watching this and saying, "Come on now, can't you do something better on a Saturday afternoon and hold up a bunch of signs and be abused?"
There is nothing better to do. Yes. No. Educate. Search for the information yourself. Get all the views that you want and investigate for yourself and find out for yourself. This is true. This is happening.
Was there one book or one thing that sort of got you interested, or is it just a series of things?
It's a series of things.
Yeah.
Everything was building on itself.
There's a very interesting book that was published in the early 60s called The Fearful Master by Edward Griffin. Now that name is familiar because he's the guy that wrote the book on the Federal Reserve Bank. And a friend of mine, a colleague of mine by the name of William Jasper, read it, was given to him at a college fair in Idaho. And he was a liberal in those days, and he read the book and he threw it up against the wall and he said, "This is a bunch of nonsense." Well, it took some soul searching, but after a while he became, today he's probably the most articulate opponent of the UN.
That's what it
So,
takes a lot of
Good.
times.
so a little bit of
Yes.
soul searching and even some spiritual soul searching too. You know. Well, thank you for your time here. Okay, you have anything to say about this rally here? What brought you here? And
Well, what brought me here was I
what-
realized that the UN was kind of insidious in the way that they were trying to get the message out to the American people. It wasn't so much, well, we think we need a global government. It was, well, don't you care about the environment? I mean, look what's going on, all the pollution and everything. You know, if we just had a way that we could bring everybody together and teach them ways to improve the environment and teach them how to be green, you know, it would just be better for the whole planet. So instead of trying to force it on you, they just kind of try to make you feel guilty and make you think, well, what can I do to be a better global citizen? And that's
Right.
where they get you. The other thing that kind of made me an opponent of the UN was once upon a time during the Clinton administration, Al Gore presided at the funeral of an American soldier
Yes.
that was killed serving as a UN peacekeeper. Well, the only problem with that is he received a UN flag on his coffin instead of an American flag, and Al Gore made the comment that he died in the service of the United Nations.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that when you fight under a foreign flag, you are treated as a mercenary. So if American soldiers are captured, they could very well be treated as mercenaries, and they would not be recognized by the Geneva Convention,
And of course, there's a world court,
right? And
International
they could
Criminal
be-
Court,
they
which
could
we
be put
didn't sign
trial.
on to as of yet. But that's another thing that any U.S. soldier. Now, we shouldn't be sending soldiers all over the world to begin with. And most of these missions are UN missions. You know, most people don't realize the Iraq 1 and 2 undeclared wars were done with the permission of the UN.
Absolutely.
And who can forget the infamous comments by our Daddy Bush when he announced
Now
to
we can see a new world order coming into view. Yeah,
and a
Wilson Desert
UN as
Storm
envisioned
events.
by its founders. Its founders, not George Washington. He's talking about Al Jahis, the founder of the UN, and those people there. So, well, thank you for.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, would you like to make some comments? What brought you out here?
Hi, Hal. I just joined the John Birch Society recently.
Oh,
Wife and I.
oh, great. Yeah,
Sent me
from
an email.
Belchertown. Oh,
Wilbraham.
Wilbraham. Good. Well, that was a good move. A good decision. By the way, I like your flag here. Well, I like what's on the top, not what's on that one here. I like the little red arrow going across there, but the Gadsden flag. And so, what brings you out here on this muggy early fall
I
afternoon?
just like to retain my freedom.
So
And I don't want to surrender to the United Nations.
that's right.
I want to keep the United States strong. I'd like to get out of the United Nations.
So folks, we're going to wrap this little program up. We do suggest you get in touch with, if you live in this area, Western Massachusetts, Western Mass 912. I think they have a Facebook page and maybe a meetup site on Meetup. And the John Birch Society has a lot of good information, jbs.org. Massachusetts LPA, Mass Liberty Preservation Association, another organization that's working on this subject too. And
on Monday.
and we'll be doing these programs exposing Agenda 21 throughout the region until we get it out, until we get the UN out of the United States and get Agenda 21 out. That's right. And we will be successful. No matter how many nasty people drive by here and give us middle fingers, lots of them, sometimes it's the middle finger. Then they'll start thinking about it after they calm down and say, maybe I should look into that UN a little bit, you know. There was a black gentleman that drove by. Well, I guess you couldn't call him a gentleman yet because gentlemen don't utter obscenities, and especially in front of ladies.
That was rude.
But if he realized what Agenda 21 has in store for Sub-Saharan Africa, and what it already has done to Sub-Saharan Africa, a number of years ago, we were in front of Harvard protesting Gorbachev's visit. And one sign said something about the New World Order. And an African gentleman from Ghana, I think, came by and he said, "What's this about?" And I said to him, the UN wants to do the United States. The New World Order is what happened in the Belgian Congo. And he knew exactly what happened there. The UN went in there and bombed hospitals and murdered people. He took a sign out of our hands and started walking around with it.
Awesome.
So we had a convert in a matter of minutes, a little bit of truth, you know. So, all right, well, again, get a hold of these different patriot organizations and get active. No matter where you are, listening to this anywhere in the United States, get involved.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.